Hey everybody, how's it going? For those who watched my last video, you know that I'm doing a series of city comparisons. For new viewers, thanks for stopping in, I'm glad to have you here. This is Stuck in the Cornfield, where we explore Illinois. In today's video, we're going to take a look at Indianapolis and Chicago to see which one fares worse. So let's get started. Chicago is the poster child for bad crime statistics, so let's see how it stacks up against the competition. Chicago is the 10th worst U.S. city in regards to homicide, with 24.13 homicides for every 100,000 people. Indianapolis is 16th place in that category, with 17.91 homicides for every 100,000. Chicago is in 17th place for all violent crimes, with 1,098.86 violent crimes per capita, which puts them at 164% above the national average. Indy is at number 11 with 1,333.96 crimes, which places them at 234% above the national average. What about property crime? Chicago reports 3,263.8 property crimes, while Indy reports 4,411.87. In Chicago, the chance of being the victim of any crime is 1 in 24, while in Indianapolis, it's 1 in 10. So Indy is worse when it comes to crime. I'm a bit surprised by that. I never hear anyone talking about how dangerous it is in the Indiana capital. Do you guys hear any chatter about the Indy crime stats? Is that something that just isn't reported outside of Indiana? Living in a city can be expensive, and some of those cities are worse than others. When looking at overall cost of living, Chicago is 10% above the national average. Housing is 17% above the national average, with a median home price of $225,200, and the average rent is $925. Indianapolis, on the other hand, has an overall cost of living that is 10% below the national average. Housing is 29% below the national average, with a median home price of $120,400, and the average rent runs $758. To put this into perspective, the national home median price is $184,700 and rent is $949. There is no question that Chicago scores worse in this category. It takes a lot of money to make it in Chicago. So now that we know that you get more bang for your buck in Indy, how many bucks can you actually make in these two cities? If you're a male in Chicago, the median earnings are $36,144. If you're female, it's $30,441, and the median household income is $50,434. In Indianapolis, the average income for men is $31,351, while women earn $25,883, and the median household income is $43,101. Now, I have a viewer who likes to try to tell me that the gender gap is a myth, and he questions my numbers, so dude, before you start typing me an angry message about how I'm wrong, my numbers come from government agencies which compile data that comes directly from the taxpayers' forms, and around 1/3 of women in these two cities work in education, healthcare, and social services. It's 33.3% in Indy and 33.4% in Chicago. As we all know, teachers, nurses, and social workers aren't paid nearly enough for the services they provide to society, so women do earn an average income that is less than that of men. But anyway, the poverty level in Indianapolis is 20.9%, and the unemployment rate prior to the craziness that is 2020 was 6.1%. In Chicago, the poverty rate was 21.7%, and the unemployment rate was 7.3%. So in Chicago, you can make more money, but at the same time, there's more of a chance of being unemployed and/or living in poverty. The Indianapolis income correlates with the lower cost of living, so I'm going to say that Chicago is worse in this category. Schools are a pretty fundamental part of society, so let's take a look. In Chicago, there is a student-to-teacher ratio of 21:1, which is worse than the Illinois average of 18:1 and the national average of 16:1. Indianapolis has a ratio of 17:1. In Indiana, the average ratio is 22:1, so Indianapolis is doing better than the Indiana and Illinois averages, but it's a little worse than the national. The graduation rate for both cities is comparable. 80.3% have graduated from high school in Chicago, while it's 80.7% in Indy. The test scores in Indy are 9% above the national average. In Chicago, the scores are 52% below the average. Due to this, Area Vibes gives Indianapolis a C rating and Chicago an F rating, so Chicago is worse in the education department. One thing about major cities is that they all have traffic, but which city has more congestion? Both cities have several interstates running through them. Indianapolis has interstates 65, 69, 70, and 74. Chicago has interstates 90, 94, 57, 190, 290, 355, 88, and 80, so Chicago has more roadways. Chicago also has a population of more than twice that of Indianapolis, with 2.69 million compared to 876,000. The population density in Chicago is 11,938 people per square mile versus 2,342 per square mile in Indianapolis, so I think it's safe to say that Chicago is more congested. It's much easier to drive around Indianapolis. From what I've experienced, the drivers in Chicago are insane. There's a scene in the movie My Best Friend's Wedding where the character Kimmy yells, "Oh, my exit!" and veers across several lanes of traffic. That pretty much sums up Chicago. The worst thing I can say about Indianapolis traffic is that there are a lot of one-way streets, and my GPS gets confused and tries to make me go the wrong way, so then I have to hear, recalculating, recalculating. I'll take driving in Indy over Chicago any day. Indianapolis has been the home of the Colts football team since 1984 when they moved from Baltimore. Chicago has the Bears football team. The Bears were originally called the Decatur Staleys back in 1920, but they moved to Chicago the next year and became the Chicago Staleys. The year after that, 1922, the Staleys became the Bears. Both cities also have basketball teams. Indianapolis has the Pacers and Chicago has the Bulls, obviously. Those are the only two sports that both cities have. Indy has the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where both Formula One and NASCAR put on races. Chicago doesn't actually have their own raceway. The Chicagoland Speedway is located in Joliet, so I don't count it as being a Chicago sport. However, they do have two baseball teams, the White Sox and the Cubs. Plus, they have the Blackhawks hockey team, so I'm going to have to give Chicago the advantage in this category. The climate in Chicago is classified as typical hot summer humid continental. The average temperature in July is 75.9 degrees, but they have around 23 days that hit above 90 degrees. Winters can be harsh. The average January temperature is 36 degrees and blizzards can occur. The coldest temperature on record was in 1985 when it hit negative 27 degrees. Indianapolis also has a humid continental climate with the average temperature in July at 75.4 degrees. They typically have 18 days above 90 degrees. The January average is 28.1 degrees, and they get around 26 inches of snow every year. Chicago averages 37 inches. So both cities are similar in terms of weather, but Chicago has more days over 90 degrees and more inches of snow, so I'm going to say that they're worse in this category. So that makes Chicago the worst of the two cities in the categories of schools, traffic, climate, cost of living, and jobs. Indy is worse in sports and crime. I think it's pretty clear that Chicago has more suckage and is therefore the worst city out of these two. What do you guys think? Which city do you like better? Leave a comment below letting me know. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel to show your support. Next week's video will be comparing Chicago and Memphis, so watch for that next Sunday. Until then, I remain stuck in the cornfield.